Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another edition of Three Live Canes. As always, I am Chris. That is Bill. Normally, there's a Steve-O down there, but Steve-O's off celebrating his brother today. I don't know if we talked about that at all, but his brother got a great opportunity to continue his career in college. But Steve-O will talk about that next week when he's back. But for the rest of you who decided to join us here today, you're probably upset and you've probably been mad for a few days. Maybe you're mad on Saturday. Maybe on Sunday you have a favorite NFL team that you went out there and watched, and maybe that was fine. And then maybe like you put the Christmas tree up or you put the lights up. So maybe you're feeling the holiday spirit. Maybe you drank some hot chocolate yesterday and you're feeling good about that. And then you're like, you know what? This isn't the end of the world. It's just football. And then you're like, but it's Wednesday night. Let me turn on the show. Maybe those guys have some positivity. And you see Steve-O's not here. And you're like, uh-oh, this ain't going to be good. Well, yeah, that's kind of how it goes. Obviously, the two big pieces of news, as we'll talk about, Miami destroying the season by losing to Syracuse with a total inability to play any sort of form of defense. And then Miami also having a signing day today. We're picking up not a ton of players, but certainly a good amount of like quality players after losing a couple guys through the course of the week. Some guys that, before this past weekend we're like, we cannot lose this dude. And we lost to at least one of them. So, but got some other talented players too. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But it's a lot of me just yelling at you right now before we eventually start complaining about the loss. So I'll just throw it over to Bill and say, Bill, besides all that, how are you doing today?
I am not big chilling today.
No big vibing. No vibing today.
No, it's you knew that things can change very, very quickly in college football. 4 or 5 days ago, whatever it is, we were heading towards the playoff, heading towards a top 10 class, and none of that happened, and everything has kind of come crashing down. So things changed quickly. We held on a little bit towards the end with the recruiting. It wasn't a total disaster by any means. So we have that positivity going for us, and maybe a potential bowl game in Orlando, the Pop-Tart Bowl. Potentially, we don't know yet. A lot of season left. Momentum has slowed, to say the least.
Yeah, slowed a little bit.
But the action's not going to. Portal opens up on Monday, so it's not going to stop. A lot's going on.
Borderline off-season mode here for Three Live Canes. So we'll give you guys as entertaining of a show as we can. At the very least, we will be a sounding board for you to throw your irrational complaints in the chat. Today is the day we put them on the screen, boys. Today's the day. So get some of that negativity out there. We'll be sure to highlight your stuff as best we can. But thank you guys for joining us here on a Wednesday night. This is Three Live Canes.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska.
He's a stud, that Brown, number 98.
Irvin's got it. Irvin's free.
Slips to the outside, tries to stiff arm, and he couldn't get by Ray Lewis.
Big time players. Step up in big games.
Hard dog. Don't ask me if I'm all right. Hell no. Devin Hester up to the races. That's what they needed.
That's Ricks going up for Thorpe, and it's intercepted near midfield. Sean Taylor's got another one.
Who else?
Who else but Sean? Who else but us? Here to talk to you about Miami Hurricanes football, even a few days after as crushing a loss as the Miami Hurricanes program has suffered. And it's worse than it's
worse than 2017's losses.
It's worse than 2017 because we lost
in the ACC title.
Yeah, we still made it to the game. Worse than that. Worse than we're talking decade-ish, maybe multiple decades. Tennessee in 2003. We're gonna go all the way back to 2 decades. I don't know, but it was horrible. In case you missed it, I doubt you did, and you're just tuning in today like, man, gee, I hope we won. But Miami Hurricane, we just rolled half the roster up there to Syracuse, New York, up to the former Carrier Dome to try to play a game without a single soul playing on the defensive side of the ball. And as we've learned throughout the history of football, that doesn't tend to work out really well because Cam Ward, the rest of the offense, came to play. Cam, congratulations, ACC player, Offensive Player of the Year. Well-deserved honor for a guy that did his best to carry the rest of the orange and green as far as he could carry them. Both like throughout the early season when like everything was still working well in the defense, and then later in the year when nobody was fooled about a single damn thing that we were doing on the defensive side of the ball. Cam did his best. A lot of other guys in the offense did their best. The offense still put up points. You know, you score 38 against Syracuse. Like you score 38 in a football game, you should win. You should win that game. We did not win that game. So Orange, very formidable team, 9-3, 100%. Absolutely. At 100%, a solid team, a good group of guys. But you were talking about Miami had the opportunity to do something that they have never done. Never done in the history of the playoff, in the history of the ACC, won an ACC championship, and folded. Folded like a wet paper towel, never to be returned to its form again. So, Bill, just your thoughts about our horrific loss, soul-crushing destruction that we experienced.
I think soul-crushing is a good word. I mean, now that some of the emotion from Saturday night has worn off, and you've heard me say this before. The biggest problem, right, that this program has faced is we consistently play down two teams. Syracuse is a good football team. We are a great football team. So you get up 21-0. Seems like, hey, we're good. The defense does its thing, right? It gets back into it. So now you're in a dogfight. So when you're in a dogfight, if the breaks don't go your way, you lose, right? We saw it all year where the breaks went our way up to a certain point. I'm not even going to talk about Georgia Tech because I think they just flat out beat us that day. The offense was off, but you think about Syracuse, right? Bad personal foul. You jump off sides at the end. You fumble the football, it gets returned for a touchdown. You get a bad holding call against you, negating a 60 or 65-yard run, whatever it is. Those things happen. And when those things happen, you're going to lose because you put yourself in that position. So you score 38 points, you totally expect to win, but not with this defense who, a lot of, even, OJ, who's, played, great year as a freshman, finally had his kind of true freshman game. Defensive line didn't do much after the first couple possessions. So just, crushing, but it's almost status quo for this team that it's every game is a coin flip, essentially, no matter who we're playing, where we're playing, the stakes of the game. Luckily we had, Cam Ward this year to kind of put us over the hump in some of those games where, the breaks that didn't necessarily go away until the very, very, very end. But again, it's just crushing. Yeah, you were right there. The expectations for this team after the first 4 weeks, increased dramatically, with how we looked, but we left so much meat on the bone, having the best quarterback in the program's history, this storied program's history, and you don't even make it to your conference championship. Yeah. It's unacceptable. It is.
Yeah. And, you always spend so much of the year, talking about like the peripherals of, we were mad that Cam Ward wasn't getting more hype for the Heisman. We were mad last week when he got passed over for, I think it was the Unitas or the Davy O'Brien. We were mad when we weren't getting the respect in the polls. We were mad when we weren't. We were mad when we were mad. And at the end of the day, you had to win all but you could have lost one. You could not lose two. That was the conversation we had. You could not lose two. And we lost the second game. And to that point, there are a lot of people who are we talked about it from the very beginning. I'm not a horn tooter where I'm going to say, well, I was right. Because honestly, I just say a lot of crazy stuff. Sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't. But when we first talked about the process of like this new playoff, we sat here, we talked about numbers and we were like, well, how would it look if you have a a 10-2 ACC team against a 9-3 SEC team, and every one of us said 9-3 SEC is going to go. We said it. We all said the same thing.
I mean, this is something I was harping on, and I say a lot of dumb things, and may not be considered an intelligent person, but once this playoff came out, I knew exactly what it was. And the example I gave was 10-2 Miami versus 9-3 Ole Miss or 9-3 Penn State. But here's kind of the kicker in all this is the SEC did everything they could to get the ACC in, right? All we had to do was win, and we would have eliminated an SEC team.
Yeah.
But had Alabama lost to Auburn, Ole Miss would have been ahead of us.
Yeah,
There's
or
no-
South
no
Carolina,
doubt.
or South Carolina.
And if Ole Miss lost the Egg Bowl to Mississippi State, South Carolina was going to jump us because they just beat Clemson. So the ball was in our court. We actually controlled the power, not just our playoff hopes, but for the conference and everything else. And you left it up to the committee, and 100 times out of 100, they are going to pick the SEC team or the Big Ten team if it is close. Doesn't matter who we played, who top 10 wins or margin of victory, strength, or it doesn't matter. You have to go 11-1 to secure yourself in this playoff format as it currently sits.
And I don't even know, I know we talked about it. We were like, get to the AC title game and you're in. I am very interested to see what they do to SMU if they lose this game. There's almost no way they could be out. Logically, any sort of reasonable thought, there's no way you could take them out. And Rhett Lashley was on a show today, and he said, look, otherwise teams are just going to forfeit the game and not go to the conference championship. They want to make the playoff, right? That's where the big money is. That's where all that is. They talked about it. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, no way, Rhett. But then, no, they might screw him. They might screw him out of there. But what's the recourse, right? You take SMU out of the game. What's SMU going to do? What's the ACC going to do? Pull out of the playoff? No, they're just going to take it.
Right? What would I'm trying to think of it. All right,
There's no doubt.
Let's say
Clemson's not going to walk
Clemson
from it.
Clemson beats them 42-7. I don't think that's going to happen, but that happens. The committee could drop them. If they drop them past Alabama but ahead of us, they're still in, right? No, they wouldn't be, because Clemson would have to jump in.
Clemson jumps in, yeah.
Yeah, so I could see that.
If they get smacked by Clemson, it's a Bama SMU debate. And where are we? We're back. We're at we're at Bama. And somebody said it. That's the Kane fan. Lifetime Achievement Award.
They've said they won't punish teams for losing the conference championship, but they make up the rules as they go because nothing changed. The rationale doesn't apply if you go through the playoff, and I don't have it right in front of me, but I believe it was Heather Dinich or Andrea Adelson from ESPN. They kind of showed the rankings later that the record didn't necessarily matter because there was a head-to-head, but the record mattered for, there's just no logic applied throughout the committee. And, my main complaint is it's too subjective. But again, we knew this going in. I forgot even the playoff show was on because I knew we weren't getting in.
Yeah.
I turned it on after it was already announced. So that's kind of where my head was at. And I knew once we lost Syracuse, it was over.
Yeah, 100%. It was a death sentence. And people were like, well, maybe. I even had people text me. People that were you normally quick to mock me for Miami losing. They were like, you think they'll still make it? And I'm like, no, they're not going to make it. They're not going to give us an olive branch.
And what's ironic is as Canes fans, we're all like, no, we're screwed because we know. But there was more than because I listen to a lot of the national podcasts, but everyone was saying Miami has a better resume than Alabama, or they deserve to be in ahead. And I don't really care to debate it because I think the playoffs should be more exclusive than inclusive. So, do we deserve to be in? I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
That's no. You can't lose 2 out of 3 to end the season, and like it or not, you had an opportunity to win those games and you lost them. Like, to me, that was a playoff game, right? Like, a lot of people used to talk about the 14 playoff as, oh, well, like your conference championship ends up being a playoff game. In a lot of ways, yes. BCS, it used to be your conference championship is a playoff game. Like, you got to win the games you have to win to make it to the big dance. And we chose not to. Right now, we're a mid-major team in the NCAA basketball tournament, and we lost our opportunity to go there. We had to go. Like, we were bubble team, and we went to the conference title game and lost in like the quarterfinals. Now you're out. Then they're gonna put whoever in. Seton Hall is gonna go, not you.
They did lose to Monmouth the other day. You're not going to overcome the SEC, ESPN, media machine. So, again, you had your chances. It just you didn't pull through when you should have. You had a 21-point lead. If you would have won the game 42-41, you're good. You're in.
Yeah,
but
a loss is a loss is a loss.
Disappointing.
See if Cane fan guys, here's a question: what's the point of ranking 25 teams? There is no point. It's just because
there absolutely is a point, because when they come up with their rankings, they need to, or they come up with their rationale for putting certain teams ahead. They need to say, hey, SEC teams have beaten X amount of top 25 teams, who they just always put in there no matter what.
That's fair.
So
That's a fair point.
That is why they do it. So like teams are getting credit for beating like Missouri, top 25 win. Okay, who gives a shit? Like, they suck. So that's why they do it. It is.
It's what we were saying before about like when they said that losing the conference championship game will not matter. In my mind, looking back at it, the reason he said that was because he wants to be able to justify later, hey, the reason why the SEC championship game loser still has a home game to make all that money is because like we don't punish the conference championship game loser. Like, we still are going to have multiple SEC home games for that. That's why. Like, the Big Ten, like that 5 through 8, loaded up with as many of those Big Ten and SEC teams as possible. Loaded up. That's all big in SEC.
Yeah, I mean,
make that money.
Not only do you have to navigate the conference bias, but even if Miami snuck in as the 11 seed, you're talking about going on the road. I mean, you say what you want about Notre Dame. They had a really bad loss, but they've been pretty good since. It kills me to say that, but imagine, having to go to Notre Dame or having to go to Tennessee or, one of these teams, and then you start the actual playoff. So you get there. It's not an easy road to the national championship, although whoever has the 5 seed is actually looking pretty good to at least get to the semis. But if Georgia Tech beat Georgia would still probably be in, because they'd probably drop them to 10. And then if they lost the SEC title game, they'd probably be like, well, we can't punish them.
Yeah.
Although they could have, if another SEC team was right behind them, then they
football
could
miss up or South Carolina up. Yeah. If that would have happened, it probably would have been, I bet we would have been 13th. It would have knocked us down more. Even though the team we lost to beat Georgia, it probably would have made us 13th.
And I mean, I'm really hoping that the Big 12 winner, whoever that is, Arizona State, probably, I think they're favored, or Clemson, SMU, like, they need to win some games in the playoffs to kind of start to dial back. You're not going to eliminate the bias ever, but at least give ourselves like a puncher's argument for when we have to go against the committee, despite us having less losses than an SEC team. Yeah, so we're rooting for Boise, we're rooting for Arizona State, and then Clemson and or SMU.
What's a shame is that they're going to, even though, I mean, anyone that's watched SMU this year knows they're a really good team, right? Like, they probably would have ran us off the earth.
They would have scored 50 points.
Yeah.
Could we have scored 51? Maybe. But no, I know we've had our side conversations. My thoughts, I used a lot of probably graphic terminology for what SMU was going to do to us, at least defensively.
So let's, like, it, as good as SMU is, the fact that it's SMU this year of all years, and it's a team without the pedigree, a team without the national brand, it's a team without like a lot of these random like jamokes from the middle of nowhere, like SMU won the ACC. Pff, that's an AAC team or wherever the hell they were. That's an AAC team, a Conference USA team. They won the ACC. The ACC sucks. That's going to be the conversation. God forbid SMU loses like the first time they roll out there. God forbid they play because like what they would be the 3, right? They'd be the 3.
Think about how that logic doesn't apply elsewhere, because Texas is a Big 12 team. They're in the SEC championship. First year, they're favored. Arizona State, Pac-12 team, they're in the Big 12 championship. They're favored. Oregon, Pac-12 team in the Big 10 in the conference championship. They're favored. SMU, first year in the ACC in their conference championship. They're favored.
Yeah.
All 4 Power 4 conference championship favorites are new to that conference.
Won't mean a damn thing, because they're going to absolutely they're going to be like, look at this bum team that won the ACC and just slapped around all these other schools, slap around Clemson, slapped around these other spots. And if SMU is the 3 and they end up playing the 6, and the 6 is Penn State or Notre Dame or whoever the hell, like we're talking about a potential loss for SMU in the wrong situation. And then it's going to be, look at it. We knew it. That's why Miami didn't get it. That's why we laughed at these ACC teams all season. That's why they were a one and done conference, and the Big 12's a one and done conference, and the random nobody conference that's out there. That's why we're a big SEC playoff bracket.
Hey, win your damn conference. That's it.
No.
Well, no, yeah, because Boise would drop out and UNLV would cut it, because they have to have they would be the next highest
they would
group
be
of 5 champ.
Yeah, because they were the 5th one, right?
It would mess with the seeding, but it wouldn't impact us.
It would be we maybe that's true. We could go to 11, but it wouldn't matter, because it'd be 10 plus 2 versus 11 plus 1.
And they might not even drop Boise below us, because what? You can't punish conference championship losers, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I already want to follow the playoffs. I want Penn State and Franklin to drum. Good win over a top-ranked team. I hate them. I mean, I always appreciate an Oregon loss. I have no love for Oregon at all. So
how they handled Mario leaving kind of soured me on them. I never had a problem in Oregon until then, but being Northeast, you always just have a deep hatred for Penn State anyway. So I don't really know if there's really any positives at least for us too.
I'm rooting for Penn State only because I need there to be at least 1 or 2 quarterbacks in this playoff season who go crazy and get drafted high. So the Jets draft somebody, but so I'm praying Drew Aller is a guy. But any loss for Oregon is a good loss for me, and I would love it. I anxiously await the day that Dan Lanning goes to the NFL and leaves them behind, because that just amuses me greatly when they lose their coaches. You can't say if Dawson takes a head coach job, gives you good Kansas, then who? Tom Herman and Jim Leonard. I don't know who we'd go after. I don't know.
I would take Jim Leonard in a heartbeat.
He's done it. He's done it before. He knows what he's doing. He's smart. Like the inability of Lance Guidry to adjust or like just no plan, no consideration of change. Like I'm not a Steve-O, so I'm not going to go like put the tape up and be like, oh, well, they didn't do this and this and this and this, but it's the same dudes making the same mistakes every week. Like it's change the personnel. No, we're not going to do that. Are we going to change the schemes? No, we're not going to do that. We're just going to roll everybody out there again. All right. Well,
but like last year when we had injuries, we switched to a 3-3-5 and it looked good, and it was like the perfect adjustment. We were singing his praise. We didn't want to lose them. No, I mean I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that even if we get Jim Leonard or some big time DC, we need to upgrade the personnel across the board. There's probably only 1 or 2 guys on the defense. That's like out of the defensive starters that I don't want to lose. Everyone else. That was my tweet the other day during the game.
There was about the Mesidor as a DB thing. Like there were, like I understand what he was trying to do. It's something we talked about when they hired Guidry, that he likes to have these stand-up edge guys that are like, oh, it's a 3-3-5, but but then the one guy is rolled up as like a stand-up edge, and he's, blah 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 blah, right? But if you're dropping that guy out into coverage and it's a really pure 3-3-5, that dude who is a stand-up edge should not be a player who came to Miami as a defensive tackle and has been a deep inside outside guy on the defensive line for his entire career. If you're going to have a stand-up rusher, why would you not have it be someone who has ever covered a human being in a football game before? It made no sense. And it wasn't like Syracuse was scheming us into it. It was a choice. We chose to do that and to call the play for it, right? It's like when you're on it's like when my son plays Madden and he goes for fake field goals on 2-point conversions, as 2-point conversions. And I'm like, dude, like if just run a regular play, it's from the 2, but instead of your fake field goal from the 15. And he's like, nah, because it'll work because you don't expect it. I'm like, you run it 10 times a game, man. Stop. He made a choice to fail. And that's all that Mesidor was out there. And that I hate the guy's a good player, but you put him in a horrible position.
He's not a DB. You can't expect him to cover anybody.
We can't. Lance Guidry does. Like Guidry's watching the tape today, and he's like, "Damn it, Akeem, you almost had it." Like, no, he did not, man. He did not almost have it.
Gotta get your hands on the ball there. But no, I mean, I think that just speaks to the mismanagement, disorganization on the defensive side, which you see at pre-snap anyway. But if you're going to do that, fine, do it with Elijah Austin. You can do it with like a Malik Bryant. Yeah. You can. There's guys you can do it with, but you're not. Yeah, whatever. If you're going to do it, just send Mesidor, have a blitz, and just leave the flat open because that's what happens anyway. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of just timeline, like, I don't even know. Like, do you wait until? I mean, the portal opens Monday. You need to you're not going to get any DBs or corners without like a solidified defensive staff, right? Is that kind of?
Are we back in this? Are we back in the coordinator? I don't know if he's staying or leaving. So now we don't get any players to come play. Are we back in this horrible cycle? This Mario thing. Oh, if we're back at this, I don't know if I can take it. We're going to hold on to the guy for an extra 6 months, and then he'll leave gracefully at some point in like July. I don't know if I can take it.
I mean the timeline, this is every program, right? Like we've seen programs make moves. They're not necessarily going to be hired up. Florida State is because they fired everyone midseason because they were trash, which hiring Gus Malzahn was very just weird. Like,
doesn't make any sense.
They did good defensive coordinator hire Tony White out of Nebraska. He's probably going to bring some of those guys with him as well. I saw some of them hitting the portal, but I mean, if it was me, right, I would just do kind of what Miami did to Manny Diaz in terms of like, hey, yeah, we'll see, we're evaluating. And then lock in your defensive coordinator, the guy you want, and then pull it, right? So there's not a gap.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I don't really think Mario operates like that. I don't think he was really expecting to have to make a change at defensive coordinator because I think we gave Guidry a raise last year to keep him here. So yeah, it's just a tough time. Imagine if we stuck in the playoffs too. Like then what?
Yeah. Mo Canes, do you guys think Guidry's 100% gone? I think he has to be. I think he has to be.
I am not fully convinced that
I don't know what you like. It was such a horrible failure at the end of the season that I don't know how you what conversations do you have in the offseason? Like, how do you talk to the media and say anything but like, yeah, we blew it because of this very obvious thing? You can't be like, I know Cam Ward was on an interview today and he said, like, we have great both sides of the ball. Like, Cam knows that's not right. But that's Cam. It's a player. He's trying to like stand up for his guys. But I mean, what's Mario going to say? Like, Guidry was fine.
I'll play devil's advocate and say we knew we were going to take a step back because of our personnel, but at the same time, you are responsible for that personnel. This isn't year 1. This isn't year 2. This is year 3. And as the head coach, this isn't necessarily Guidry's fault, which maybe that plays into it, but you're the one that went out and got guys necessarily don't fit the athletic profile of a Miami Hurricanes defense.
Slow.
You didn't get game breakers. You know, the defensive back recruiting or cornerback recruiting has been terrible. You know, you landed a gem in OJ. Good. You know, he's going to be a foundational piece. Damari gets hurt. You know, some guys regressed. You know, you didn't do work in the portal. You kind of fell on some probably plan C type options. So
now on that, to that point, and talk about like recruiting guys that aren't of the athletic profile, like how many big time recruits did you pull in that couldn't sniff the field? Couldn't sniff it. Weren't even allowed to look at the field. Like we talked, was it 2 weeks ago? We talked about got to get some of these guys out there and see like let the hungry dogs eat. And instead we were just like, there's a dog that ate too much. It's still like waddling around the field. Like, oh, come on, man. We got to get some of these guys out there that can,
and like, I mean,
those dudes.
You're going to have to depend on your development, but we haven't recruited the high level guys like the Ben Hankses. We didn't land those guys that could come in and play quality minutes from day one. I don't know if anyone really expected OJ to. I think that was a surprise. But you know, you've landed a top 10 class your first year, top 5 class your second year. Now it's backslid a little bit, but all those guys that talent group, those are the ones that need to be developed and stepped up. You know, you're not going to be able to reload in the portal. Yeah, I would say just whoever the best safety is, just blank check, get him. Whoever the best corner is, blank check, get him. And then that's kind of how you're going to fix it, because you need the elite top-notch guys. If you go out and just get a bunch of, like, if you get 2 or 3 average guys at corner, it's this going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Just, I no offense to the guys, but like there's been enough of those guys recently in the portal where you get them and you're like, oh, maybe this guy will hit another level when he gets to Miami, and he doesn't. And then we're all right. Now what? You know, I don't want to hit some of these questions that popped up. See if Kane fan says, would you have pulled OJ getting burned all game? For whom? Like,
yeah, for who?
Who's going in? Right? OJ, if OJ getting burned, I mean, yeah, you could put somebody else in, but I don't know if the story changes. Right? Schematically, nothing changes. It's just like, all right, a lesser player try to survive it. I don't know if I would have.
He had a rough game. Guess what? So did everybody else.
Yeah.
All year.
Like Jaden Harris made a play. No offense to Jaden, he's trying his best, but Jaden Harris made a play, and everyone was like, "Oh man, made a play," and then it was like, "Oh yeah, all right, there it is." Mayday Moody says, "How are we gonna get anybody in the portal if we don't have an OC or a DC? Good, you can fire it. We'd be screwed in the portal." I mean, you know, yeah, money is going to be important, but Rico makes a message there like you got to get whatever you can as far as the check goes. That's for sure.
And that's kind of one of the problem, or I guess one of the issues I guess Mario is going to have to combat, right, is he's not like an offensive or defensive guy. We'll get offensive linemen, no problem, right? But every time we change coordinators, the philosophy, the scheme is going to change with that.
Yeah.
So like Lincoln Riley doesn't, not that maybe he's a bad example because he's doing terrible, but a guy like Lincoln Riley, right? You know that the offense is going to be the same no matter what, right? That's why he's able to get all these top-notch quarterbacks, even when his teams suck. But you know, I hope we can get another year out of Dawson, because I feel like we just need to have some continuity going into next year, so that we don't have a giant fall off never as bad as FSU, but you could see what happens when you don't have your act together. Because parity is here. You saw it with these playoff teams; they're all vulnerable. But you also see what happens when you don't recruit and you don't land guys in the portal.
Yeah,
things can just fall off very, very quickly.
To your point, like about coaching consistency, college football is not a sport where you can bring up an understudy under your OC and then hire the guy to be your offensive coordinator in the future, because you need to have recruiters. Like, you need to have recruiters at all these different spots. You can't have the luxury of having a young former quarterback like the guy like De'Ara King. Like, De'Ara King is under Lashley because Lashley is the genius for the offense, right? So we can have an OC, have whatever he wants as recruiters, this and that, because Lashley's the offensive guy. So we can bring along a De'Ara King. But Miami doesn't have the luxury of that because our head coach is not a X's and O's guy. So our offensive coordinator has to be the X's and O's guy. And then you have to have recruiters under him. You know what I mean? So you can't get that guy to develop him. So no continuity, like you said. Arico, no time to fire, right time. Just kids don't care about money. Just pay them. Yeah, it's true. You can't win no playoff. Then who can you? Then can you? Who need to? Okay, who you need to, and let Jason Taylor coach him up. H&M kind of on the same note there. How long will Jason Kerr be the DL coach? Isn't DL about the one bright spot for the defense? I don't know if anybody was the bright spot for the defense. I love having Jason Taylor for the recruiting aspect of it. I don't know if anybody, or I'm like, oh man, like, because even the edge guys, I think schematically was a big part of it. We did not allow them to do their job, but
definitely they're the best unit on the defense. I don't even think that's a debate, but they definitely underachieved by quite a bit. We're rightfully talking best D line in the ACC, potentially one of the best in the country, and you got very little. Barrow had his moments. Bain came on a little bit at the end there, but going forward, right? I don't really, we lose Barrow, but you showed you developed Moton. You have a 5-star in Justin Scott going into year 2. You have the best D-line class in the country last year going into year 2. You don't need to dump a bunch of money there. Use that money to go get those corners and the safeties that you haven't recruited. But if you can't develop like these guys that you brought in the last 2-3 cycles, it doesn't matter what else we do. I think the theme, at least for me, will be development of those top 10 classes that we signed.
Yeah, it's we'll see. It's like that end result. Like, we need some of those guys to step up. And Portal's obviously, quarterback position alone, we are in a really, really interesting place. And I know CF Kane fan made a comment before. I wouldn't go after a quarterback, spend the money, D-line and D-backs. You have to. You have to go after a quarterback. Like, that's
so Puffenberger entered the portal, right? So you have Emery, Judd, and Luke Nickel, right? That's it. I'm not forgetting anybody.
No.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. I think you have 3 quarterbacks. You have to make a move in the portal, but you have proof of concept where you can actually go get a top guy. Whoever the next Cam Ward is. Maybe there's not going to be a Cam Ward, but you can go get a big name, a Miller Moss. Mateer's probably likelihood going to Oklahoma, following his offensive coordinator. Jackson Arnold just entered the portal. If money is an issue, maybe you go get a high level recruit that maybe just hasn't shown it, like a Jackson Arnold, where maybe he got put into a bad spot at Oklahoma where their O-line sucked and their receivers all got hurt, and then let him compete. But even just from a depth perspective, you need to go get somebody.
Yeah, and the name of the modern game is go get a quarterback. So, if you don't, it's an arms race. It's a constant arms race.
Not to continue to be negative, but your defense, it'll probably improve. I don't know how much worse it could get, but you need that quarterback because you need to score points.
Oh, you want Mario gone? I don't think anybody wants. I don't think there's a Mario leaving conversation at all here. I don't think anybody wants Mario gone. It's
somebody say that in the chat.
I don't. Oh yeah, someone up there did. But it was kind of like more of like a airing the grievances, and I think than fire the guy. But I don't think if you fire him, I think that's just you're kind of throwing in the towel because he knows how to do a lot of this stuff, and I think a lot of it has gone right. Even getting Cam Ward after like the back and forth forever. But the problem is that like, how do we close this thing out? And we were a defense away from closing it out this year and getting where we had to go. And then maybe next year it's, if only we had a quarterback. And like, what's going to be that piece to make it all magically click so we can actually be around this thing?
I think it's possible for multiple things to be possible at the same time. You can acknowledge that this season ended as a big disappointment for what could have been, what should have been, but also acknowledge that we are in a much better place than we were a couple of years ago. We've made progress. We won 5, we won 7, now we won 10, although there is legitimate concern about a fall off from 10, right?
Yeah.
In all likelihood, right, as it sits today, the roster is probably not going to be as good because we don't have that Cam Ward. And, can the development of everybody else, all those high-level recruits that we've gotten over the last 2 cycles, can that make up for an elite quarterback in the aggregate? Can you go get a good or great quarterback and have that make up for that difference?
I saw talk online about like people saying, well, 10-2 is going to be our high watermark for a while because of all we lose and all that. And then someone was like, no, we got all these young guys, these studs going to get a year better, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the hell without a quarterback to do what we need them to do. Like I trust in Dawson, but it's Dawson plus Ward together that allowed us to do what we needed to do. Like that's the conversation. And anyone that says, well, Dawson could Cam Ward played about as well as any quarterback we've had in 30 years, but as well as any quarterback we've had in 30 years, 100%, about as well as any quarterback we've had in 40, like of the 40 years of the program. And that's including multiple Heisman Trophy winners. He was right there of a similar echelon of play. Like you don't get that every year. My University of Miami does not get that for decades at a time at the quarterback position, as much as we like to think that we have a pedigree there. That pedigree is aged. So if you don't get a great quarterback, I don't know where the conversation even starts, because then we're going to lose games. Like how many games did we win because Cam Ward went superhuman or made 6-7 throws that we haven't had a guy be able to make in years? Right?
If you're gonna have a below average to bad defense, you need that level of quarterback. Yeah. If you have this dominant force like you saw with like the Alabama teams of the past or the Georgia teams where you have just a dominant defense, yeah, you can just throw a game manager out there and do it. But this defense is a ways away. But things can change quickly in college football. Yeah. If you can hit the portal the right and you hit on those guys, things can change quickly. So, it could be change for the good. It could change for the bad. Well, it's part of the fun of the off-season roller coaster.
Raja said, if Cam was so much better than what we had, we would have won a natty or at least made the playoffs. Why? Like, he clearly was better than all the stuff we've had. He dragged us to 10-2. Like, without him,
we have the best offense in the country.
Like the best offense, and then the worst defense known to man. Like the worst defenses than some of the ones we whooped up on in the Big East 20, 30 years ago, whatever. Like Cam dragged us at times to 10-2. Literally took a body, dragged it across the line. It was like, hey, we won that game, and the body just sat there looking up at him. So no, he was. This conversation starts and ends with Cam being the dude.
Was the offense perfect? No, but it's no offense. No side of the ball has ever been perfect, right? Even the 2000 Ravens defense probably had some moments where you're like, okay, but no, we had the number one offense in the country. You have the number one offense in the country, and you lose games. Why? And it's not because of the offense. You want to put Georgia Tech. Okay, you get Okay, I'll give you that one. Even though the defense still wasn't good in that with their 17 play, 29-minute drive that they gave up there. Yeah.
There's a comment up there. If we played SMU's schedule, we'd be undefeated.
Hold on.
Who's to say we would? Like, who's to say we would?
I gotta look up their schedule. Hold on. I'm just looking for a team that can score points. Did they play BYU?
Yeah, they lost to BYU.
So here, I'll go through this. Nevada, okay, win. Holy Cross win. BYU, dogfight. TCU, probably dogfight. Louisville, dogfight. At Stanford, probably a dogfight. At Duke, dogfight. Versus Pitt, dogfight. Boston College, dogfight. Cal, Virginia, yeah. We'd probably have a very similar record.
And they whooped Cal, and Cal was a miracle win. So I'm not.
But how many? All right, we whooped Florida. We beat up Florida State. How many games have we went out and just how many? Not FBS. P4 opponents did we just go out and just dominate? Florida.
That was going to be Syracuse for a second there.
Florida State. Wake was a dogfight early in the fourth. We were down 10 points to Duke in the second half.
We whooped Duke.
We ended up whooping Duke.
But Duke was dicey. Duke was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Every game was dicey, so you can't sit here and say, "Oh, well, if we played this or that schedule would be dicey too."
There's another comment about Cam up there from CF Kane fan. I'm going to get to his. I have a very strong opinion on this, a very strong opinion, and I don't know if people are going to agree with it necessarily, but does Cam stay for the bowl game? I'll go. Yeah, hell no, he shouldn't play in the bowl game. Hell no. If he showed up at the game in uniform, I would go and just, dude, no, do not play in this game. Do not play in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Get out of it, man. You're going to have to go in top 3 in the draft. Why would you play in the Pop-Tart Bowl? You get to pick and choose at Wild Berry. See if you get to eat Wild Berry Pop-Tarts at the end. Now, granted, Wild Berry, highly underrated brand of Pop-Tart, but still not worth you risking your NFL, any bit of your NFL career. Absolutely not. Unless you're not worried about getting hurt because then the Giants won't draft you, then by all means. But
I would be surprised if any of our guys that could potentially be drafted actually played. So Martinez, no. I doubt Jacoby George plays. I actually maybe think he might. Sam Brown's probably not going to play. Guys like Jalen Rivers and Carpenter probably not. Defense, who cares? It doesn't matter who plays. It's a new world of college. The bowls matter even less than they did.
Not at all.
10 years ago when this playoff first started. The 14 playoffs. So.
In iota do the bowl games matter. Nobody cares about the bowl. Like, bowl season used to be when you had the BCS championship game. And I know a lot of you guys out there know the same stuff too. But when there was the BCS championship game, every other game still had life of its own. Like, there was still something to it. Like, the Rose Bowl was something you look forward to for everybody. But
there's no opt-outs. Even if you when we play in that Boise Bowl or whatever, all the starters still play. It's a new era. It's fine. The bowl game really doesn't matter at all. You just don't want anyone to get hurt like Flesher did last year. That could impact the beginning of the following year because we do open with Notre Dame and have Florida early. So that game is all about getting guys like Jordan Lyle, JoJo Trader, Nye Carr, Bobby Pruitt, Saquon, getting those guys just more game reps. That's how I look at it. It's a glorified scrimmage. Get the young guys reps. See if you can maybe build a little bit of momentum and some development for the following year. But the bowl game, zero, or outside of the young guys, seeing the young guys, zero interest in it. Doesn't matter what the score is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you see enough. I mean, the chance of you seeing enough from any of the quarterbacks to be like, yeah, we're good. Highly unlikely, but still, let the quarterbacks go out there and play. Like, give them both opportunities to get out there and play a little bit, because I don't think either you're worried about any kind of red shirt on Judd. I don't think he's anywhere close. So, like, there's I don't know, but I know people are going to say, like, well, we'll see what the bowl game is and we'll blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's hard to care about it. And it's hard. I know it's hard to care for a lot of you guys because, like you said, like, we had the opportunity in front of us. We lost it. And now it's all what ifs. Now it's all, I don't know what we're going to do. And now it's a lot of off-season talk in a week where we were like, no, this is, oh, I know Nate dropped a Nostradamus in the chat on someone. That's pretty good. On this. I always like circle. Oh, Port Knox, you just missed my Giants joke. Nice for you to show up, though. It was about Cam Ward playing in the game, not caring about getting hurt to avoid going to the Giants. I mean, it's the Giants, or it's the Jets, or it's the Raiders, or it's the Browns. So this is oof. I mean, after Trevor Lawrence got murdered on the field on Sunday, maybe the Jaguars reconsider that Travis Hunter at 1 pick, but
yeah. This is it's just a very familiar feeling for me as a football fan, considering the NFL and Miami, constantly just stabbing me in the heart. Miami gives me hope though. Like that makes it worse. Jag just All right, you want to we'll give out some awards for the predictions, and then we'll talk recruiting and wrap up.
We'll do a lot more recruiting stuff next week when Steve-O's back, because we had a kind of air our grievances today, and we're running long as it is. So let's just hit this stuff and head to the road, head on the road.
All right. So season predictions: Steve-O, Chris, 12-0, did not happen. Myself with my 10-2 prediction, nailed it. Money in the bank. Never a doubt. I did not get the correct games right, but I did get 2 ACC games. So yay me. Winner, chicken dinner. All right, that goes in the garbage. We're over and done with that.
Real quick. Port Knox said, where do you guys think X winds up going? I think X is going to end up going in higher than people give credit for, because people in the modern NFL, people value a dude like him. So I'm interested to see how he runs. If he breaks 4 or 5, I think he's going to get drafted in the top 3 rounds, personally. So we'll get there. We have a lot of draft talk this year, so I'm excited about it. Go ahead, Bill.
All right, our Syracuse predictions. Last place, Chris off by 33 points. A tie for second place between the chat and Steve-O being off by 25 points each. And then I win this one being off by 17 with my 33-30 prediction. So for the year, we predicted 11 games because we missed Florida. Coming in last place, no one's surprised. Steve-O with 1 accurate prediction. Ball State, good for him. we have actually very close. So the winner had 4 right, and then second place each had 3 right. So the chat was one with 3 right. Josh had 1. That was the VT game. I can't read my head. Oh, Fresh had the Louisville game. And then CF Kane fan had the Duke game. So they had 3. So it came down to me and you. And we all know where this is going. So, I had the 4. You came in second with the 3.
Which one did I get? Which one did I win?
You won Wake, Georgia Tech, and USF.
Wake, Georgia Tech, USF.
I won Florida A&M, Cal, Florida State, and Syracuse. So my reign of terror continues. If you don't like the negativity, you probably want to miss next year's season prediction show. Put that out there now. But yeah, so I mean, I remember talking about when I did the 10-2, and everyone always gasped when I predict losses, whatever. But I was like, 10-2, that puts us in the hunt for an ACC championship. But I never thought the offense would be that good, and I didn't think the defense would be that bad. So that's what kept us out of it. was that terrible defense. Offense kept us in it. Defense dragged it down. Here we are.
You know, it's funny. It does remind me of. It reminds me a lot of 2003 because 2003 the defense was so good. And like they could do whatever they wanted, and you had players, you had draft picks, you had all these dudes that were awesome, right? And the offense just lost. Like there were games they were just lost. And like the VTech, obviously, like the Tennessee, obviously, but like there was a bunch more than that where it was like, oh, they'll get it together, but the defense was perfect. So we won. And then we're like, it's okay. Like we're still there. And then, but the cracks were there. Like we weren't the team we were the year before, the 2 years before that, or the 3 years before that. We weren't close to that. But we were like, no, but we're still good enough too. And then this year, it's kind of the same thing. We're like, where was cracks, but the offense was so good and so great, like consistently that we're like, and then defense just broke. Once they broke, there was no fixing it. Or attempts to fix it, but hey.
So recruiting, another positive topic.
Here, well, we'll just hit it real quick because we spent all that time and we're getting like right to the hour. But you know, obviously, like there were some guys we lost, some guys we gained. Not a lot of surprises necessarily. Today we had maybe a couple within the best couple of days to the negative. But do you just have a favorite recruit, a guy that? You know, because some of these guys we talked about when they committed and that was it because, you know, it wasn't like all season long recruiting talk because we had so much, you know, real football to talk about. Kyle, is there a guy that stands out for you? Someone that you're really excited to see play as a Miami Hurricane?
Yeah, I'll give you two. I don't know what happened to my camera. Just randomly went out. Cool.
So we can see you, Bill. Let's stare longingly at the screen at your camera.
I'll give you two. One is actually our highest rated guy was SJ Alfatuli. He just seems like a 3-year or 2 to 3 year starter, all ACC, you know, at center. Maybe once Ryan Rodriguez graduates, he'll take over. And then I'm on the Port Knox bandwagon here with Kellen Wiley. You know, I like Nix as a player. I thought, you know, he could be a good linebacker, but it seemed like we were recruiting a lot of the same athletic profiles that we just saw this year. And I think Kellen Wiley brings a little bit more twitch and athleticism than what we have and, you know, what we need to bring in to elevate this defense and, you know, kind of talk about the defensive backfield as well, right? I know we lost Stubbs, you know, we lost Merritt, but the question that, you know, we can't answer now is, are the guys we're bringing in, are they going to be different than what we have right now based on what, you know, all those guys that we've brought in the past? You know, are they different? Are they going to be those high level guys? And I think Jabari Antoine has a chance to be that guy. You know, maybe I know he's battling an injury, but, you know, maybe in year 2 for him, you pair him with a 3rd-year OJ and you have a legitimate athletic shutdown tandem.
Yeah. Keep clicking the buttons, Bill. It'll work. I really like, you know, obviously we need more guys. I don't think we pulled in enough, like in the defensive back. Like when you lost Stubbs, like Stubbs was going to be my guy. And then like now he's not here. So then it's hard to make up with that. But I mean, Fitzgerald is really good. Ewald is a guy that, you know, we started talking about Ewald 4 years ago. Steve-O first brought the name up. So I like when we get those guys, because usually those guys that are around for a while and have like always withstood the pressure of being this elite recruit, they can make it work. So I like Ewald more. I mean, he should be one of those dudes. Like we loved him when he signed, and like he's one of those guys where like he wasn't maybe the big name for years and years and years, but another guy that should be able to play. And I mean, there's a lot of guys that I like. Maybe we didn't have the hyped, oh, later on we got this guy and he's going to be this and he's blah, 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 that we have had in years past. But somebody like Hayden Lowe, another big time dude. So, I mean, I'm happy with the guys we have, and obviously there's still some meat on the bone that I think even Mario knows. And I'm excited about the portal group, because I think the portal group maybe more indicative of where like we're going next year.
Like Mario is a recruiter at heart, and I think it's probably killing him right now that we don't have a top 10 class, and that quite frankly, we're not even all that close to a top 10 class. But if you just sort of kind of look at the averages, we're the number 12 class, which I think still isn't good enough. But you still have the portal to bring in. Talent acquisition isn't about one specific thing anymore, but you brought in, 21 guys, which, isn't a huge class, but it's not necessarily a small class. But you think about the guys you lost, right? You lost Stubbs, you didn't get Pickett, you didn't get Hanks. That should leave you a lot of money to make a big impact in the portal. And that's kind of what my eyes are on. I want to see quality over quantity. If bring in just average guys, just let your young guys be those guys going forward. You did the work, you did the hard part, you landed those guys, 1 to 2 years ago. So bring in the quality, match them with your young talent, and figure out the quarterback situation, and let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of let's go, that'll do it for us. We'll do a lot more on the recruiting class next week. I think by next week we might have a better idea of the bowl game where we're going to go. I don't know where it's going to end up being. Probably like in Orlando. I saw someone say the Gator Bowl. So one of the places in Florida that you guys don't like to go to may end up be where we have to go. So be ready for that, Miami fans. But we'll see how that goes. But before we're out of here, I'll point over here at this frozen image of Bill, and I'll say, Bill, final thoughts for the people.
Am I frozen, or is it a black box?
I have you frozen. Please, if you're out there, let me know. Is Bill frozen or a
my box is black? When I switched tabs, my screen kind of went black for 2 seconds, and now I can't get the camera back. But final thoughts. Let me try and be positive. Portal's coming up, and we have a lot of money, or we should have a lot of money to make a big impact. So we have a good opportunity to kind of put some really, I don't want to call it, because we're done putting band-aids on positions. We have a good opportunity to find legitimate solutions to the problems that are plaguing this team, specifically on the defensive side of the football. So there you go.
Oh, that confirms it. You are in fact mean mugging as I see it. So, sorry.
So it might be this hotel Wi-Fi too.
Damn hotel Wi-Fi. But so yeah, you never know. I mean, you have opportunities, right? Money's on the table. We have the opportunity to spend it. We can hopefully make it work. Turn off the computer and then turn it back on. No, by the time he gets that thing back on, we're gonna be gone. So I wouldn't worry about that. So, my final thoughts to make up for Steve-O. I mean, this is obviously depressing from the standpoint of what was possible. Would we have lost the AC title game? Yeah, maybe we would have won. Would we have lost the playoff game when we got to it? Yeah, but maybe we would have won. Would we have won 3 games or 2 games if we won the AC title game? Would we have won 3 games the rest of the way and won a national championship? Probably not. But, you always have that maybe, that a couple more weeks of maybe would have been nice to have, right? Just to have more talk of it. And, to have the season ended so suddenly against Syracuse, a team that you have owned, yes, most likely they would have, but we still would have made the playoffs, and we still would have been like, hey, well, I don't know. It's a shame. It's a frustrating end, sudden end, a jarring end to a season that you didn't expect to have it happen that way. But hope springs eternal in the off season. It's lying season, and it's here a little quicker than we anticipated. Yeah, that's when we do all of our talking. That's when we'll figure this thing out. But anyway, hopefully by the time we get to next week, we've heard the news that Cam Ward is not going to play in the WesternUnion.com Bowl or whatever the hell we're going to go.
Yeah, I was just Googling. It seems like Gator Bowl. I saw LSU. I saw Missouri. So I said Missouri sucks before, so we'll probably play them, and they'll beat us by 70.
I could not care less about a bowl game against Missouri in the modern college football landscape. Could not possibly get myself to care any less. I'm at the absolute minimum of care for a Missouri bowl game, but we'll be hyped when it happens, and we'll watch it, and Hopefully Emery lights him up. I don't know. But that'll do it for us. Again, we'll be back with Steve-O next week. We'll talk more about the recruiting side of things. We'll talk about how the playoffs all shaked out, the tournament. Maybe we'll even do our own predictions for that. Opportunity for Bill to do predictions and not be negative. We'll see how that goes. But for Bill and Steve-O, I'm Chris. Thank you guys for joining us so much. Thank you to the guys at CanesInSight for allowing us to do this here on the channel. Make sure you guys check out Canes Connection down there at the bottom. If you want us to take that last little leap here, there's your opportunity. Go give them some money and help make it happen. Because, that's how it goes. That's the modern game, right? So for Bill and Steve-O, I am Chris. Thank you very much. We will see you again next week right here on 3 Live Canes.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska.
He's a stud, that Brown, number 98.
Irvin's got it. Irvin's free.
Slips to the outside, tries to stiff arm, but he couldn't get by Ray Lewis.
Big time players. Step up in big game.